This week on The Week in Business, Osun Development Association holds exclusive reception in honor of leading lights from Osun State at Lagos Airport Hotel, Ikeja, Lagos. The Nigerian Bar Association Institute of Continuing Legal Education, in collaboration with the Capital Markets Solicitors Association, holds 4-day capital markets training virtually. Bank Directors Association of Nigeria holds its 2023 Bank Directors Summit at the Congress Hall, Transcorp Hilton, Maitama, Abuja. UBA holds exclusive webinar business series on e-commerce, the effects of online retail. Welcome to this week's edition of The Week in Business, where we share with you some of the major events in the world of business in Nigeria in the past week. I am Taiwo Akinawi. It's great to have you join us on the program today. Starting the event highlight for this week is the Osun Development Association exclusive reception in honor of leading lights from Osun State held at the Lagos Airport Hotel, Ikeja, Lagos. The event recognized 3 prominent indigenes of the states recently appointed into significant positions in the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, further inducting 14 members. It was also an opportunity for eminent personalities, technocrats, scholars, and thought leaders from Osun State to network, share ideas, and knowledge personalities who have distinguished themselves in the country. Take a look.
This gathering not only provides us with an opportunity to network, socialize, and exchange deep thoughts on issues of state and nation, but it's also an avenue to recognize, celebrate, and identify with 3 indigenes of our beloved state who have distinguished themselves in their career path, evidenced by their recent call to higher national service with their appointment into strategic roles in the federal government of Nigeria by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. We hope to seize this occasion to exchange useful ideas and thoughts with them and provide our support to enhance excellent performance during their tenure. ODA is always very close to any government because we don't support governors, we support the government, we support the people. That is our goal. We are not politicians. In fact, the guideline of ODA says and we encourage our members to go into politics. But once you go into politics, you suspend your membership of ODA. And when you are done with politics, then you can come back as a member. That's what we've been observing. We are made up of eminent and distinguished personalities of Osun State origin. People who are not looking for any contract or any job from government, but just people who want to serve, people who are made and want to contribute to the development of the state.
I feel highly elated being part of this development organization. It provides a platform to give back to the society and contribute meaningfully to development, especially when you talk of the youths, which segment which I belong to. It's an opportunity to encourage them, motivate them, and groom the leaders of tomorrow with a view to developing and building a better and bigger society in Nigeria that we all look forward to.
Naturally, one should expect that when you have your own people, honoring you, with this kind of turnout and the outpour of emotion, one must really, really feel very proud of himself. But beyond that, we know about the very heavy responsibility, the great expectations, the burden of leadership. Practically, we carry the aspiration and the hopes of Nigerian economy on our shoulders. Of course, you could also add security because we have the chief of staff also being honored. So it's a very, very big responsibility. And we hope that God being with us, will be able to discharge these responsibilities.
Next up is the virtual capital markets training organized by the Nigerian Bar Association Institute of Continuing Legal Education in collaboration with the Capital Markets Solicitors Association. At a time when Nigeria's capital market sector is rapidly evolving, the training organized for lawyers seeking to expand their expertise in capital market law and practice addressed knowledge gaps among legal practitioners, featuring interactive sessions facilitated by renowned capital market solicitors and incorporate global best practices tailored for the Nigerian space. The free virtual training also sharpened the knowledge and skills of participating lawyers regarding the legal frameworks, regulatory dynamism, deal structuring, documentation, and product offerings that characterize Nigeria's capital markets.
As long as you are in Nigeria, if an investment by the federal government of Nigeria is a secure investment, because why do I say that question? You are in Nigeria, that means you are saving in Naira. Agreed? That means that you are working, you are earning Naira. Now, God forbid, if the federal government of Nigeria defaulted on their obligations, our Naira will become worthless. So think about a Zimbabwe type scenario in which, and I know all of us have seen those memes in which they show that, oh, somebody is holding 100 billion Zimbabwean dollars because the money is ultimately worthless. So the fact that all of us are here and even listening, having this exercise shows that the federal sovereign bonds are their secure investments. And remember, your sovereign bond is your last issuer. So think about it. If the federal government of Nigeria defaulted, that means that all of our banks that are holding Naira, well, you can sort of fill in the blanks there.
I have actually been involved in preparing companies for IPOs where various things have come out, right? And I'll speak about one in particular without necessarily disclosing any names. Where, for example, we're trying to prepare this company, and it turns out that one of the investors in the company is a PEP, right? A politician. And it's a politician that has been investigated for all kinds of things. And that company was trying to do a dual listing. So that is a listing both in Nigeria and in a foreign jurisdiction. But when that came out, obviously that is something that had to be addressed by all of the parties. So we had to have meetings where we sat down with the company, we sat down with the existing shareholders, we sat down with the issuing house, and we tried to see how we could work it out, right? Now, sometimes the issues are practical things that can be taken care of. So maybe the company has not done certain filings, right? Or maybe sometimes the company has said they have a particular contract that they don't have. Those are things that you may be able to fix. Or there may be things that can be addressed by PR or communications, right? But it's for all the parties to really sit down and decide how you want to move forward. And I have to tell you that in certain extreme circumstances, the decision may be taken that the company should not go forward with its public offer because what has been discovered would be detrimental to the offer, and the investing public, it would be unpalatable, as you say. But it's something to always think about. And the reason I mention it is because one has to, in the process of the due diligence, in the process of looking at claims and litigation, issues need to be flagged, right? And they need to be flagged at a stage where it is still just the parties to the transaction, not at the stage where that information is going out to the public.
As a major cornerstone of our nation's economy, the banking industry plays a pivotal role in driving economic growth, fostering financial stability, and promoting innovation. Therefore, to ensure the banking sector's stability, there is the need to navigate regulation and compliance successfully. It is on this premise the 2023 Bank Directors Summit themed Emerging Issues Navigating the Complex Balance Between Regulation and Compliance, organized by the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria, held at the Congress Hall, Transcorp Hilton, Maitama, Abuja. The summit, which had as a special guest speaker His Royal Highness Sanusi Lamido Sanusi CON, former Governor Central Bank of Nigeria, provided a forum for banks and regulators to engage in practical discussions beneficial to all banking sector stakeholders.
Is that this is a government that wants growth and reforms. So our response to the growth and response agenda is very, very brief. The banks will be willing and able and eager to partner with the government on this agenda of growth and reform. We will work with you. We will happily work with you. Banks have a role to play, and the role is a central one. But we have three minor asks of this government and any other authorities. One, please consult with us. The era of regulations without consultation should end. We're partners. If you consult with us, we'll tell you how to accomplish your objectives in a smoother, cleaner fashion. To this end, I call on the Central Bank of Nigeria humbly to institute, I would say, twice a year meetings with the chairman of banks. I know the CBN has regular meetings with the CEOs through Bankers Committee, but I think that it will be helpful if there's a formal dialogue with the chairman of banks twice a year. I think it will help. But again, that's an ask, and you're the regulators and can decide to take it or not. The second ask I have is a little bit more complex, and it is ironic that I'm the one asking, and His Royal Highness is here listening. That is the issue of the AMCON and NDIC levy. It has now become the second largest operating expense of banks, second to wages and salaries. And it has the potential of becoming the number one. It's not sustainable because all banks do is banks transfer these costs to their customers. And it shows up in fees and interest rates, lending rates. It's subtle, but it's there.
To be honest, you bank directors are the very first line in regulation. And what regulators need to do is focus more on making sure that banks are well managed and that banks understand the risks that they run. We keep telling bankers, you know, banking is a business like no other. It is the only business where people will come and carry their entire wealth and give you based on trust. You don't give them any collateral. Set up any kind of industry and you want to borrow $1 billion or $2 billion, you need collateral. The banks, you're borrowing money, trillions and trillions of naira without giving anybody collateral. The only thing that you have is that the central bank licensed you and the public trusts you. That is the only collateral that you have. It's your integrity, it is a trust. When a banking system begins to operate in a manner where the public does not trust it, that system will collapse. We paid 11 trillion naira in fuel subsidy. There's no accountability up to now. The National Assembly called NNPC to bring the documents. They refused. And by the way, let me advise that this idea of the president being petroleum minister is not a good idea. The last president was minister of petroleum for 8 years. When I was governor of Central Bank, we had a petroleum minister. So when I talked about NNPC, I could attack Dizani. Now nobody can talk about petroleum because 8 years, if you talk, you're attacking the president. We need that buffer. Somebody has to be there. So a minister has to be there who is held accountable by Nigerians. I say this because if we're talking about banking, if we're talking about the banking system, if we're talking about the economy, we've got to look at all these linkages. And this excess focus on banks, on regulation, and all that, it's important, but we also have to look at transparency and regulation in other areas.
If It was yet another time to discuss the digital world with focus on the digital marketplace at the UBA exclusive webinar business series themed e-commerce, the effects of online retail. To enable industry operators stay ahead of the game, the event ensured the gain of insight into the dynamic world of online commerce. Enjoy.
When I started business, it was a little before COVID, and then COVID happened, and then I had an actual store, had a physical store, and then COVID happened, and I shut it down. I just paid my rent, couldn't really do much, so I had to do my business from home, and I had to do it online. So automatically that meant that I then realized that even though the importance of brick and mortar was there, people needed to go into the stores, there was actually something happening online, and we had to take advantage of that. So I think that online has done a lot. It has created really big growth to businesses and the success of businesses, just using your website or other social media platforms to grow your business.
I think people tend to overcomplicate data, but data, even if you have a small shop in Balogun Market, it's important for you to get enough information and data on that store. So it could be as simple as how many people walk into my store and how many people buy. What that data gives you is it gives you your conversion rate. So 10 people walk in, 2 buy. So you have a 20% conversion rate. So you start to ask yourself, okay, what do I do to increase my conversion rates? Do I need more inventory? Do I need more variety? And you start to, on a weekly basis, monitor that. So it goes from 20% to 25% or 30%, so you're getting better. So I think people try to overcomplicate data, and they act as if you have to be a data analyst or a data nerd to understand or to use data. But I think we need to start dumbing it down. Even the most basic of data, we need to start capturing it and using that to improve our business. So in terms of a business like Konga, there's so much data we have access to, from our marketing to our operations, the supply chain, from the product side, even to logistics, And what we do is, on a weekly basis, in a management meeting, we don't use PowerPoints. We literally just have a big Excel file full of data, and where we watch the trends on a weekly basis or on a 4-week stretch. So from that, you can see different variances. So let's say there's a 5% drop in our delivery rates in the Southeast. We start to drill down into that data. Why is that happening? What's going on? Is that an issue in that region? Is that an issue with some of our logistics assets in that region? So data, the first step is really getting access to the data. Once you get access to the data, being able to understand it and then use the data to make business decisions.
The way I work with brands, I was telling them my story before I came on here, just how I became an influencer, because I'm not from the era where I started being an influencer as a choice of, okay, I want to be an influencer. It just happened based off what I was putting out there. Before I work with brands, I try to align with them to see what it is that they're trying to achieve. Okay, so what are their goals? What do I want? And why? I first of all recognize that they wanted to work with me because they saw something. So that's a given. If someone reaches out to you to say they want to work with you, it's because they've seen something that's valuable and you can get. So when I try to find out what exactly the brand is trying to get, so let's say they say, oh, I want more exposure for my brand, or I want more sales for my brand, or I want more people to get on with what I'm doing. I then go back home and take the brief that I was given, look at it, and then see how I can translate that brief into what the client wants without losing my authenticity or without losing what exactly it is that I'm trying to do. So so how it works is just basically we have on social media, for example, we have conversions, we have data, the same data that Prince is talking about. We have data that shows how well this engagement worked in terms of the performance, how many people engaged, if there was a link, how many people clicked on the link, how many people saw it, and how many people bought from it. And then there are some people who would even come directly to you to say, hey, I got this off your recommendation. So that's how it works really. And then at the end of so we have a period that we work for. So let's say we decide to work for 3 months, or maybe a 3-month period, or a one-off, or a 3-month period. At the end of the period, my team puts together what's happened throughout the time, and then we share it with the client, and that's how they know how well we performed or not.
So I will speak on it from a brand owner perspective. If I have a new collection coming up, for example, and we're thinking, okay, how do we want to market this? So my first step would usually be to decide, are we doing like a range of marketing? So are we doing social media? Are we doing email marketing? And if I pick those two, I decide that, okay, with social media, we're now in the age of influencers, and they are helping a lot of brands to grow. So I'm thinking, how do I find, or which influencers do I want to work with? And one thing I realized is a lot of mistakes that people make is you own a fashion brand, you want to push your collection, and you're working with an influencer who is known for makeup, or you're working with someone who is known for selling cars. And what you find is that the people who follow them are following them because they are influenced by this person who sells cars, not by what the person is wearing. But I think it's very important to find the influencers that are in your field, and then after that, finding the ones whose goals align with yours. Because if you're a luxury brand, for example, your way of marketing is not going to be how a fast fashion brand pushes their item. So you wouldn't go to somebody who works more with fast fashion brands, because it's a different type of marketing. You need to pick the exact type of person that works for your brand. And then another thing I look at their engagement. So I can work with somebody who has 1,000 followers, or I can work with someone who has 500,000 followers. The amount of followers never really determines what the sales are going to be. So I really look at interaction. I go to their comments. I look at what people say. Oh, I like your outfit. Where did you get it from? etc. Oh, I'm going to buy that because it looks so good on you. So that's something that's really important for me. And I would also say, with influencers, it's very easy for people to think, okay, this person has so many followers. Once I give them my dress, my business has made it. I'm going to sell out, and that's it for me. But I would say you don't always have to measure your performance or success with how many sales you get. It could be followers. And it could be that whatever you release in this collection, they don't like at the moment, but they followed you because they see what the long vision is. And your next collection that comes out, they might buy something else. It might be saves. And if it saves, it means, okay, maybe I don't have the money to buy it right now, but I'm going to come back and buy it. So I would say also track what your performance is with them. So you can give them a discount code and say, let's say I'm the influencer and I'm like, oh, I got this dress from this. If you want to buy from there, here's my 10% discount code. So that gives the brand an opportunity to check how many people they've actually converted. And if I see that, okay, when I worked with this influencer, 70 people used her code, when I'm trying to do my next marketing thing, I'm going to think, okay, let me go and work with those who performed properly for me the last time. So I would say with every set of influencers that we work with, we always try to track the growth so that we know who to work with subsequently.
And that'll be all for the events highlights on this week's edition of the Week in Business. But before we go, let's take a look at the events happening in the world of business in Nigeria next week. And that's it on today's edition of the Week in Business. Thank you very much for watching. For more business, finance, and economy content, follow us on all our social media platforms at WebTVNigeria and visit our website, www.poshare.co. Thank you once again for watching. I am Taiwo Akinawo. Till next week, enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a wonderful week ahead.